Hello everyone. Happy New Year. It's 2015. In fact, it's January 13th. Tuesday. Harp Tuesday. And I hope you have a wonderful year coming up. All the best. And I'm excited. I've got some fun projects coming up, and I'm happy to be doing another year of Harp Tuesday with you, sharing some wonderful music and thoughts about playing the harp. And definitely going to be doing some more live concerts this year as well, or live streaming concerts. Looking forward to that. And in this first Harp Tuesday of 2015, what I thought I would do is start a look at a few of the pieces from Bernard Andrès' Ribambelle, which is this collection. And Ribambelle means like a swarm, right? And that makes sense because this is a collection of 10 quite short little pieces. And a student introduced these to me, and I liked it so much that I got my own copy. And it's Bernard Andrès is a harpist and a composer who's living, and has written a whole bunch of stuff. And this particular collection, I really like. It's not that hard, and for example, it's no lever changes or pedal changes, and yeah, it's written for the lever harp, right? And it's nice. There's some interesting contrasts, some good left-hand stuff, some good right-hand stuff, and just some nice little pieces, different little moods, as they say, quite short, and like a little swarm of stuff. So I'm going to start with the first one, which you just heard me play. And what I want to do is just talk about a few things to think about while learning it. And looking at patterns, and looking at difficult spots, and looking at ways to practice. So we start with this little... And that's kind of nice, and there's almost that sense of... It's like, we need something. Ah, okay. You know, that chord falls in really nicely. It's like waiting and then resolving. Then we get this little section, and so here's the first spot to just kind of be aware of and maybe practice in a different way rather than just going through the whole piece. And you know, in general, like, you might go through the whole piece a couple times, just kind of getting a handle on it. But here, this little spot, wanting to make sure that this is smooth and solid. So one way to do that would be, of course, take it in the right hand. And here I'm going to talk about this transition, right? We go 1, 2, 3. We place the thumb on that D before playing the third finger. And now be really aware of putting these two fingers on as a unit. We're going to do 1, 2, 3 again. Rather than, of course, sometimes the tendency can be to place 2, and then realize, I need 3 on, and maybe 2, and the thumb. And that gradually going down ends up being really inefficient. And also, it just adds a little bit of uncertainty. If we can go and find these two, great. We know that's how far we're going, and we know we're not going any further. In other words, if we have a tendency to go here and then maybe sometimes place the fourth finger afterwards, the fingers aren't trained to necessarily know, am I supposed to get the fourth finger? Am I going back up? Whereas this way, we place these on, and now we know we're going down, and that's as far as we're going down. And as it turns out, we're turning around again. You know, these two fingers as a unit, right? 2 and 1 are coming back on as a unit. Remember to place that third finger. So you may want to write out the fingerings. There aren't any fingerings. He uses these phrase markings, right, over the notes to, I think, completely consistently within this particular piece, at least, this first one, to indicate that within that phrase marking group, all the notes are connected. And then once the phrase marking is over, you come off. And it also, of course, ends up making sense musically. And you can practice, like, maybe counting triplets. 1, 2. This going down, placing 2 and 3 as a unit. And then kind of just being aware, okay, we go down twice, but then we turn around. And trying to groove that and trying to have that feel really good. And then, of course, we have to fit the left hand in. And you can see, like, throughout this first line, it's always, of the 3 beats, we get 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. You know, the left hand's always coming on beat 2. But that's easy here when we get 3 and 1, 2, 3 and 1, 2, 3 and... Oh, now we got all this to 1 and 2. And it can be hard. We can want to, say, play the left hand with a right hand thumb. It doesn't, to our ear, it doesn't fall quite as easily as this little right hand finishes, left hand now. Of course, you can count it. 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1, 2, 3. And that's always good practice to see if you can count out loud while you're playing. Also, just being aware of what note is that left hand coming with. It's coming with 2 in the right hand. So you can start this and just be aware when that 2 gets on the C, we're going to play the left hand. And again, that utility of, if this section is a little bit tricky, is a little bit hard for you, breaking it down, playing the whole section, or breaking it down further, like trying just that turnaround, or maybe 2, you know. Again, always finding smaller and smaller bits to the point where you can do something really smoothly and you got it, right? It works. It makes sense. The fingers are finding it, and then expand that out. Whereas if we just play through a piece, always just playing it all the notes in order, and maybe even if we do it, you know, 5 times, it's not going to be as beneficial as taking a little section that's giving you problems and doing it 5 times. You know, if we spend 5 minutes on this little, you know, just zeroing in on the spots that are hard and repeating that until we're really comfortable with it, that's going to do a lot for a section like that. Then we continue, and we can see we're just repeating. Now we get kind of like the little B section, and in fact, if you want to look at the patterns, you can see that we have that section, we get the middle section, and then we come back to basically repeat that first section. So we're more than halfway through the piece now. So now here, just being aware, like as this phrase marking indicates, we're going to place all 4 of these. Great. Awesome. We got all 4 of these. And this left hand now is suddenly coming in on beat 1 as well as beat 2. And so again, just kind of being aware, this is not too bad. Being aware of, and that interesting thing where we're playing thumb and 2 together, and then the right thumb and left 3 together, rather than, or both going in the same direction, they're going in opposite directions. And then here again, we're going to place this 1, 2, 3 and connect to the thumb and try to. So again, we can take this little section. Can we get this? Does this feel good? How about this next one? Now we get this little thing that we've had before, except this time it's up a third, and the left hand is doing something a little bit more. So instead of going, the start's the same, it's up a third, but except up a third. And now it's a little different, right? Instead of going back up, we're going. So again, kind of being aware of those patterns. This pattern starts the same, and now it's going to change. And so kind of having that make sense, this whole thing, instead of looking, whoa, here's these string of notes that keeps going on and on being connected, trying to break it down into little things that make sense. And this, and definitely write the fingerings in here, right? If this is giving you a little bit of problem, so that you reinforce this. you don't have to go through it and each time think, now wait a minute, which finger am I going to play this? No, you can see the fingering there. And again, I can take it at whatever speed. This is down again. But again, like if this is giving you some problems, try and get that right hand going first, I think, so that we get that sense of how it's supposed to flow. And then see if we can. And now we return to this little, except this time we're going to go. So it's not too bad, right? We've got to start with those same 4 notes as we did earlier, except we're just going back to that G. And they're all 8th notes instead of the 3 and 1, 2. This is 3 and 1 and 2. And again, here's this like opposite directions in hands. Except they end with 2, this both playing, or like 2 and 3, the lower note. And again, this one, instead of, we're doing that, but we're adding that extra note. So trying to get that grooved and that feeling comfortable, and then we get this little thing again. And again, right, we can maybe want to try to go back up again as we did in that first section. So trying to, if that's the case, then putting a little mental flag. No, this one, we just put the thumb up here instead of going to 2 and 1. We just go into the thumb. And again, write those fingerings in. Or sometimes what can be even more helpful than writing all the fingerings in is writing a few key fingerings in. So if you find that, if you find that you keep wanting to go, oh, wait a minute, to go 2, 1, write a 1 over that E so that it really stands out, right? Oh yeah, gotta get that thumb on that E. And now we're back to the beginning. I haven't actually played it that much, right? I kind of think you want to do a little bit of a retard at the end. I'm not sure exactly how much. This would be a great thing to play around with and see. Like, you could do probably something. Pretty subtle, or maybe a little more, I don't know, something to play around with. It's also a piece that you could possibly repeat. So the first time you would hardly do anything, and then the second time maybe do a little more. Final thing I want to talk about in this piece is the chords and playing these chords in unison at the same time. In other words, we can get used to doing a lot of broken chords. In this piece, the chords are pretty sparse, and what's really nice, I think, is to hear all those notes getting played right at the same time. So rather than a little break or not having the hands quite come together, it sounds to my ear so much better when we have this and this together. Just as learning to roll a chord well is a skill, so is being able to play a bunch of notes at the same time, right? Exactly at the same time. And like really listen in, really try and pay attention. Is one note coming just a little bit ahead of the other one? Sometimes it can be helpful, say on this first left-hand chord, right, which is all by itself. Try playing it with 2 in each hand. the same because you got the thumb on top instead of 2, right? But it can sometimes give you an idea of how it sounds when they're exactly together. And then maybe you realize, oh, wait a minute, I am playing it not quite together. So both those left-hand chords and the left-hand chords when they're with the right hand, that all 3 notes. Or even... even those single notes in each hand when they're coming with each other, making sure that they're crisp and right at the same time. So I see this has been longer than I wanted. I wanted to do a fairly short episode because I think that's easier to watch, right? Like, it's more inviting to watch when you know you're not gonna have to sit down and watch 15 minutes of me blurbling on. But anyway, hopefully this was useful, and I'm gonna look at probably maybe 2 more. We'll see. Definitely a few more of these because they're a lot of fun. So until 2 weeks time, have a great 2015, and I'll see you soon. Cheers.